Hi everyone, and welcome at 2020's last edition of the Feraru Conferences online, one of our permanent programs dealing with topics relevant on both sides of the Atlantic and highlighting Romanian expertise in all things American. My guest today at this special Christmas edition comes from up there. Oh, no. I'm not talking about him. And I'm not talking about that heaven. I'm talking about a sort of heaven, which is a one Michelin star restaurant whose executive chef is a Romanian, Chef Bogdan Dănilă. Chef Bogdan was trained in some of the best kitchens in Europe and the world. He has worked with some famous chefs like Gordon Ramsay at the Petrus in London or Jason Atherton at the Poland Street Social and many others. He is now running the New York operations of the D&D restaurant group London. He is the executive chef of one of New York City's landmarks when it comes to culinary art, the Queen's Yard, located in the touristy Hudson Yards. He was named one of the 30 rising culinary stars under 30 by the influential Zagat portal. While all the restaurants are still closed in New York, we are not able to meet Chef Bogdan in his kitchen empire, so we'll have this conversation at the Romanian Cultural Institute. Chef Bogdan, welcome to the program. I'll start by asking you, how did you start? You are a rising star in New York. You are working in some of the most famous restaurants. You are a respected chef. Where did you start? How did you start this fantastic journey?
Well, I started my journey in my mom's kitchen making pancakes. You know, every Sunday we used to have this tradition in our family where we used to make crepes, very thin, and then we used to have homemade jam. And my mom used to be tired from working. She used to work as a lawyer, so she used to work many long hours. So sometimes she was like, I'm not able to make those pancakes for you, so I had to step in and make them. So I developed, love for cooking and passion. And when I turned 18, 19, my parents wanted to send me to law university, which I did for a year. But then, unfortunately, I quit. So they were very unhappy with me. And I went over to Dublin and started working in kitchens with a few of my friends.
So your passion was developed over time. Was it a moment when you realized, well, I want to become a chef. I want to work in the kitchen. I want to work in the culinary industry. It was during your adolescence or later, or how did you come across?
I think it was a mixture of in needing a job and being abroad and being all lonely with no support, and obviously I had to do something to support myself and get some revenue. So being lucky to be exposed to a Michelin star kitchen from the beginning, it kind of made me very passionate, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. First day in the kitchen, all the parts moving, the precision of it. And obviously having the passion from growing up and going to see my grandmother and seeing the chickens running around in the yard and going to the countryside in Romania, that was part of it. But once I got into a professional kitchen in Ireland and Western Europe, I think that was the deal. That's where I realized that I can do this, I can be a chef, and I really enjoy it. So
you have evidently you have reached fantastic heights in your profession. You're a Michelin star. You are working with the great chefs. But when you started, how important it was that you came from a culture where cooking was important, where eating is a pleasure shared by many. where there is a sort of sophistication in preparing food. And I'm talking about the Romanian cuisine, and we'll have the time to discuss about it. How important was that you came from such a strong tradition?
I think compared to other cultures in Europe, in Romania, we are quite lucky, and we don't realize it, that we have a lot of farm to table, a lot of farmers, and a lot of different products that, like, you know, they come from generations and generations. That, you know, my mom used to make polenta, or, you know, my granny used to run and catch the chicken and, you know, kill it right in front of me, and that's, you know, it's fresh. It was like, you know, the British or other nations in Europe, they weren't exposed to that. Like, talking to my friends in the kitchen, they were like eating fish and chips, or a tin of beans, or stuff that's, you know, you don't see that stuff. But me personally, and like a lot of my Romanian friends, we were lucky because we were exposed to, you know, that, you know, you go and pick your own apples, or you go to the vineyard and get the grapes, you know, before the harvest. So I thought was tremendously important. I thought it was, you know, and I feel lucky to be exposed to that.
So you are in the early 20s. You are in Ireland, training as a chef, and, you know, years later, after a long, very hard effort and a lot of work, you have become a very successful chef. To what would you attribute this success? Being successful as a chef, or becoming a Michelin star chef? Is it training? Is it mentorship? Is it experience working in the best kitchens? Looking back, how do you see this? To what do you attribute your success?
There's a couple of things that, you know, I think passion is the most important. Like, I'm as passionate now as I was when I was 19, when I was peeling potatoes in the kitchen, and, you know, I am very appreciative of the product.
So did you start by learning the trade from the...
So my first day in the kitchen was, I walked to the back of the kitchen. I remember right now was Ireland, was like rainy, you know, very, very...
The usual weather.
And my friend introduced me to the chef. He said, like, you know, this is Bogdan, he's looking for a job. His English is pretty good. I was lucky because my English was actually, I went to a private school in Romania, so I could conversate in English very well before I left the country. And he said, okay, do you speak English? And I was like, yes, you know, I was trying to introduce myself, be really polite. He said, like, there's 2 bags of potatoes here. If you peel them in 15 minutes, you got the job. So he threw the potatoes outside, like at the back of the door, like the kitchen. And I said, I don't have a peeler. I was like, okay, there's a peeler. And then I'll be back in 15 minutes. And then if you're done, you had the job. So I was like racing, peeling those potatoes, you know, like cutting my fingers. I wasn't experienced. I never like worked in a kitchen before, you know. And I came back and he said, okay, now you have another 20 bags to peel. So like for the first, you know, 2-3 months in the kitchen, I was just like peeling potatoes, mopping the floor, you know, peeling peppers, like all the like, you know, all the jobs.
Only these kind of jobs.
Yeah.
And what came next?
Then I proved myself. Then in the kitchen, you always have to wait for somebody to leave to take their spot, but you have to be good enough. So you have to, like a professional kitchen and like a Michelin star or a high-end kitchen, everybody's very ambitious. They want to get the next person's job. So that keeps everybody on their toes, because if you know you're the boss and I want to take your job, then you're going to perform better. So it was very, you know, very interesting, and I was intrigued by the whole operation. So I was just like trying to get better and better, and then waiting for the next person to leave, trying to get their job. Then, you know, 2 years later, I became a sous chef. You know, I wasn't as good as probably my like second or third sous chef job, because I was like trying to be cocky and arrogant, and I was like, oh, you know, now I'm in charge, you know. But I was like 22, I didn't know that much, so people used to hate me. And then, you know, I think over the years you develop your managerial skills. But going back to your question, passion is very important. A lot of hard work. People who think like, you know, you see people on TV and they're celebrity. Like, I used to work probably since 2001, 2002, from, you know, 6-7 a.m. in the morning till like 12 o'clock at night, and every day. And you miss like your friend's birthday, you miss Christmas,
right,
you can't go back home to Romania because Christmas is busy and you have to stay and work in a restaurant. So there's a lot of sacrifice, and you don't get a lot back in return. You have to spend a lot, like 10 years, 15 years before you get something. And some people you might not get anything. Like a little bit of luck, a lot of hard work, and be passionate, and always look at better chefs. Look at when I look at like French Laundry, like Thomas Keller or Daniel Hum, when I was, a teenager in Dublin, I was open the French Laundry cookbook, and I'd be like, wow, look at this. One day I'll be able to make that egg or something, And then like 15 years later, like you're on stage with these people at like the Michelin Gala. So it's definitely a dream come true. But when I look back, I'm definitely more modest than I was, when I was young. And I just try to be respectful and always learn, because it's very important to stay on top of your game. Because if not, there's going to be a new kid or a young guy that's going to be better or do your job better. And I just think it's,
How important was mentorship for you? Did you, were you involved with some particular chefs who influenced you a lot, or from whom you learned a lot?
So my early career, I was influenced by my executive chefs or by my mentors. My first chef in Ireland, Stuart was his name. He said to me, you will need to take the best out of all the chefs, and like everybody has good and bad sides, but the bad stuff you just gotta like discard it and like move on. And like and I learned that over the years, and like working with everybody had like, some people were good at cooking, some people were good at managing, but not everybody was perfect. And all the chefs had like bad habits, and they used to go to the, like especially in Dublin, they used to go to the pub and like drink 4 or 5 beers after service. I wasn't interested in that. I was like, I was like, okay, I gotta go home and sleep and wake up tomorrow morning. How can I do my job better? Because when I was looking at it out of necessity, I knew I was like deep down I was Romanian, so I didn't have the same chance. Like I had to be better, because if it was like between me or the English guy, you would give the job to the English guy or he get the promotion. So I had to prove myself even more or further to be good, because if not, like I didn't stand a chance. So like in the back of my mind was always like being the underdog and being like not inferior, but just being like behind, 2 steps behind all the time. It made me a better person and a better chef. So I feel like was a good way to be. In later in my career, I look at like restaurateurs. I look at people like Steven Starr in New York. He's big. He's like got like 40 restaurants. Danny Meyer. But 2 of the people that like really influenced me, it has to be Gordon Ramsay, because
because you've worked a lot for him.
And his precision, and what you see on TV, the TV shows, it doesn't happen in the kitchen. There's a lot of precision, and people have to be disciplined, and it's it's almost like the army. You got to be like clean shaved. Your chef whites have to be ironed every day, and you got to look like immaculate. But you've already been working 17, 18 hours a day. So some people, you go home and sleep for 4 hours and then come back, and you have to like. I used to spend so many nights in London ironing my chef whites at like 1 o'clock in the morning, watching Sky News or something, and I'll be like, okay, I gotta wake up in 4 hours, but like I had to look apart. So that was always. And then moving to New York, Jason Atherton, who used to work with Gordon Ramsay, and he opened his own company. I learned from him that he's very good as a chef, but he's a better business person. So he develops very fast. He opened 10 restaurants in 7 years, and he's a superstar worldwide. So
that's right.
So I like to follow success stories now and see how people like, make it happen. For me, just like cooking in one restaurant or having, being in charge of 1 or 2 restaurants, I think it's, I can do that, but I would like to strive for more in the future. So
of course, and there is time for that also. It's interesting. I'm listening to you, and you are talking, of course, about learning by doing, learning from other people. But at the same time, and of course, you're talking about technique. Learning to do stuff and to do it better every day, and always careful to keep up in this profession that is extraordinarily competitive. But at the same time, when talking about the kitchen, you talk about discipline, you talk about management, you talk about organization. are these skills that are required in order to become successful in this business?
Yeah, it's like the primary thing. People forget about, they look at a chef and they think there's a lot of banging pans and everybody's shouting in the kitchen and there's a lot of fire. Like the more you advance in your career and the you know, if you go to like a Michelin star or a 2 or 3 Michelin star restaurant, you know, I worked in kitchens in like San Sebastian. Is like, there's a restaurant called Arzak. It's like a very famous family-run restaurant. And if you just touch the pan on the stove and it makes a noise, everybody looks at you. So like, it used to be like, dead silence. It was very, you know,
so kitchen, the kitchen of cooking.
Yeah. So I feel the temple of
cooking.
So I feel like the more you advance in your career and the more professional the kitchens become, the less hassle and the more, like, people are just really professional. You know, you gotta be. Everybody shows up on time. Nobody shows up at Gordon Ramsay. If you show up 10 minutes late, you're fired on the spot. You know, if you come in unshaven, they send you home straight away. You lose your day. You know, if you know, you come in and your jacket doesn't have a line and it's creased, you go at the back and you iron your chef coat while everybody else is like laughing at you, because so the environment was very disciplined and the outsiders wouldn't fit in. So if somebody was like lazy or they had a big scruffy beard or they didn't really want to do the job, they wouldn't belong. Like in like 2 hours they'll be gone. So I feel, you know, everybody who was in any of those kitchens, they wanted to do the job. They wanted to be better. They weren't there just because.
Otherwise, you wouldn't last very much. You know,
because the environment, like the other people would say, okay, you're gonna. It's like is it, you know, Michelin star. Getting a Michelin star wasn't like, oh, it was me. You know, it's like the team. It's
That's
like
right.
the staff. It's the exposure. It's, you know, maybe I was lucky. Maybe I just cooked well that year. Maybe it was, you know. So I feel like there's a lot of different factors, and as long as you don't let it get to your head, and you know, it's always a team effort. Yes, you have to be a leader and be good, but yeah.
Because our culture portrays the chef as and the profession as something very glamorous, very exciting. With it's like the rock stars, like the gods of this society that likes to go out, to have fun, to have a great time. And many chefs have become very visible, have become true stars. And in fact, cooking, as you described it, it requires a lot of discipline, hard work, long hours. It's smelly, it's stressful, it's running against time. So what is a kitchen? Is heaven or hell?
For me, it's always heaven. Like, I used to be stressed for the first maybe year that I was in the kitchen, because, you know, when you start young, it's very intimidating. There's a lot of people, like everybody does their job and they're very focused. So like, you're in the way, you don't know what to do. You can't just say, okay, can I help you with something, or do you need this? So everybody has their own like routine, and you see like different products. You see fish from, you know, king crab from Alaska, and you see like Dover sole. Like the first time somebody said to me, take the skin off the Dover sole, I didn't even know, you know, is it the tail, the head? So there's a lot of things you have to learn. And then you go back. I used to go back home. I used to have this book, used to be called Larousse Gastronomy, which is like like everything that you need you find in there, obviously on the internet also. But, and I used to go home and, you know, somebody used to say, okay, you remember this bechamel or hollandaise or like some term, and I used to go home and like look at it and I'd be like, okay, that's what it is. So it's a lot of schooling, and for me it's heaven, because I always think about like my grandparents, you know, they used to cook a lot and used to be very good cooks in Romania, you know, when they used to make the cozonac for Christmas or sarmale or any traditional Romanian food. Was always, you know, my grandmother used to go and grind the maize for the polenta and then make the polenta fresh. It was no like, oh, we'll go to the supermarket and buy one bag and make it. So, you know, yes, I'm cooking on a professional level and it's very different, but I always go back and look at my memories. So for me, it's enjoyable. There's never.
When you look back at your career and what you're doing, were there any probably small disasters that come to your mind, something that, you know, because you are successful now, you are, you know, running big operations, we are preparing for a new career and you know, other challenges, but and it's not all success, you know. Have there been any, you know, disasters or obstacles that you thought, you know, oh my God, you know, it's difficult to overcome them, or things like that? The hard stuff that you have encountered. Were there any instances like that?
The first few years away from home were always very difficult, especially working in Ireland. I had to cross the border illegally into Ireland because Romanian people weren't allowed to work at that time. It was like 2001, 2002. Mm-hmm. So I was on a student visa, so I was just working like part-time, and like I was like stressed out because like, you know, if somebody would catch me, they would send me back home, and that was it. Like, you know, you wouldn't be able to do anything else. So I had to wait like probably like 2 years until Romania joined the European Union. But you know, the first 2 or 3 years was like no experience in a foreign country, no health insurance, no pay slip, nothing. People used to pay you cash for like, you know, peeling potatoes. And then as soon as I managed to, you know, progress, you know, people would be like, okay, you're really good. Maybe we give you a management job. You know, where are you from? You're from Romania. Oh, well, you need the work permit. I was like, okay, but can you not make me one? No, you have to wait 2 more years. And then, you know, going over to go to Ramsay was like, I was already so experienced and like, in my opinion, like I was good at my job that they had to go out of their way to like make me a work permit for the first 2 years in London, because I didn't tell them. I was like, I'm not going to miss this opportunity and be like, oh, well, I'm from Romania.
Yeah, sorry,
you know, I can't work.
That's
you know?
Right. Yeah.
And the guys were like, oh, you know, you do a really good job. You're brilliant. Like, well, you're from Romania. So they were like, what do we need to do now? So, okay, you need to get a lawyer and make me a work permit. So they did all that. So I'm very grateful. But, you know, looking back, those like little small obstacles, like for some of my friends, they were like, wow, I had enough, I'm going back home, or I don't, you know, want to do this. But I was
on the
like,
contrary, for you was something that
I always wanted to prove them that,
your
you know,
ambition.
like I can do a good job also. Like, doesn't matter where you're from or what's your background. Like, you can always like, I don't have to like, you know, do a lesser job. So I was even more ambitious. So for me, you know, it was, and yes, I used to burn a lot of stuff, you know, like when I was, you know, some stuff I didn't know how to make. You know, I end up being like a manager, or some like young kid used to come and ask me a question like, how do you make this? And I wouldn't know. So I would just have to like lie and say, yeah, that's, you know, I would always do the research afterwards. But, you know, nobody knows everything. I always like study, and I try to like, yes, you know, you become a chef and you get Michelin stars and like you're good, but I still feel that I'm like 37 years of age. I'm not old, but I'm not young. But there's like, you know, when I look at chefs like Paul Bocuse or the people in France, you know, they're like 60, 70, 80 years of age, and like, you know, they're pretty good. I still have a long way to go. So I, you know.
But still, you have gained a lot of experience working in this business, which again is very, very competitive. How do you apply your experiences? You know, your personal experience, was also your training experience, your exposure to these fantastic kitchens or mentors. How do you because now you're running big operations, you have a lot of people under you, you know, working for you. How do you apply this experience that you've had, this solid experience that you have gained in your work today?
I just try to be as honest as possible with people when they get a job, or when they apply for a job, or when they want to come and work with me. I'm fortunate that I'm trying to gain people's trust. So I have, since I moved to New York in 2014, 15, I have a team of maybe 25 to 30 people that come with me everywhere. So it doesn't matter if it's a dishwasher or a porter or a sous chef. Or
you bring them with you?
Yeah. So they come with me. Like when I used to work at the clock tower, you know, I left the clock tower after 4 years, and 2 months later, all the staff left and came and worked with me at Hudson Yards. So then I used to get like phone calls from, you know, Steven Starr and say, hey, what's going on? Everybody left. We can't find any staff. So from that perspective, I feel very fortunate. I want to say that I'm very strict with people. Once they're in my team and they know what to do, they're part of the team. But, you know, they have to go through like a drill of
initiation in order to gain your confidence.
And then I like to empower people. I like to promote from within, you know, like I have people who used to be a dishwasher and now they work as a sous chef. So I would never bring anybody from outside unless they're specialized in like, you know, a really good pastry chef or somebody that does us like everybody else. I try to keep the team as, you know, invest in them and make them better and give them an opportunity like somebody else gave me an opportunity. So, you know, if somebody was a sous chef for, you know, 2 or 3 years and I trust them and they prove themselves and they do a good job, then they can be the person that's in charge of one restaurant one day. Or so, you know, I try to, you know, be loyal to the people that I know, because I learned by gaining the Michelin star at the Clock Tower and moving to New York, unless you have a good team, you cannot do anything. Especially, you know, things got to be consistent. You want to make sure you wake up in the morning and you're not stressed out because you don't know if that guy showed up to work or somebody did a good job. So I think, you know, peace of mind, just be loyal to your team and try to promote from within, and that's pretty much it.
Look, we are at the Romanian Cultural Institute in New York, where you belong, because all artists belong in
I
this.
I still have my Romanian passport.
No, it's not because of that. It's because you are an artist. That's why you belong here. Listening to you, I can't help but thinking of musicians. Musicians have a repertoire. A violinist or a pianist have their repertoire, and they can work by themselves or with an orchestra or in a chamber ensemble, but they have their repertoire. I mean, they know how to play well some pieces, you know, more or less. Thinking of an artist chef, do you have your own repertoire? I mean, do you have, because musicians can say, well, I have, you know, a repertoire made of, I don't know, 100 pieces that maybe some of them I play better than anybody else. Do you have your own culinary repertoire, things that you say, well, I can do, I don't know, 1,000 dishes, or out of each 50, you know, the best, I don't know what dish is the best in the world because I have cooked it. Is there something similar in your profession?
Yeah, of course. So by opening restaurants, I gained a lot of experience and know how to do stuff properly and how to fail. So, you know, it's a trial and error. I opened, you know, 2 restaurants in the UK, 2 restaurants in New York, and I have a repertoire of probably 20 to 25 dishes that I want to say it's almost like a plug-in format. So if you would say tomorrow, let's go and open a restaurant next door.
They have to be there on the menu.
Yeah.
Right?
So true story, when you know, D&D approached me to open the restaurant at Hudson Yards, they brought a chef from the UK that was supposed to help, you know, and be in charge, and I was just supposed to oversee the whole operation. And you know, we were planning to open a few more restaurants. So my main
to
focus
consolidate, because you're
like a group executive.
Yeah, you're dealing with their own operation here in the States.
So it's like more a corporate position for me. And you know, I knew that the chef, just by my personal experience, I knew that he would fail. I didn't want him to fail, but I knew like he wasn't ready, he wasn't prepared, his menus weren't ready. So
because they weren't the right thing for the market, or because he didn't know, or she didn't know how to do them, or?
No, I think New York is very dangerous from a perspective where chefs from Europe come over here and they see the Empire State Building and they see all the bars open till 4 o'clock in the morning, and you know, it's captivating. It's like the movies.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you know, they don't.
It's
really
tempting,
focus,
like a big temptation.
Yeah.
Right?
So they don't focus on the job, and they try to they spiral, and they spend too much time going out or not really focusing on the job. And you know, it happened with a few chefs working at the Clock Tower when we opened the Clock Tower. So I think it's just almost like a trap. So as long as you're not, you have to be serious and do your job and show up to work. But anyway, back to the dishes. We had to reopen the restaurant 2 days before, and then the owner, David and Des, the CEO of D&D from London,
brought you in, you know, like the crisis situation. They
come back to me and they said, listen, we're not really sure. I was like, okay, but do we have menus? Have we done tastings? And they're like, well, we tried some dishes and stuff, but we're not sure we're ready. So we want you to take over and just change the whole menu. And this was 2 days
overnight,
before. Yeah,
right?
It was like a Hudson Yards, it was like all eyes, everybody was looking.
That's right.
And 2 days before they said, okay, you got to change everything, change all the menu, bring your team. Said, we don't really have a budget. We can spend whatever you want, but just, so obviously.
Make it a success. That's what
just make it happen.
Yeah.
So I called all the people that I knew, all the line cooks that I worked with me over the years. We came in the kitchen. We started like 2 days before the evening. We wrote the menu. We designed everything, and 2 days later we started the restaurant. We opened. It was very successful. We got a really amazing review from Steve Kuzo from the New York Post. Like straight away he came in like second day, and we were doing like 400 or 500 covers lunch, and same for dinner. With like, so yes, people have their own repertoires, and as long as you have the repertoire and the staff, you can do anything, and you can evolve.
And then you can build on.
So the dishes are like, I have maybe 20, 25 dishes that I know I can cook almost with my eye closed, that are like at a high standard, and they can be executable very well. And every year I go back and revisit the same dish. So let's say there's like a really good tomato dish that this year we're gonna make with smoked ricotta and melon and pistachios. Next year I go back to the same dish and I analyze it and I say, okay, what went wrong? Were the line cooks good enough? Would they be able to execute it well? Was it tasty? The people used to love it. And then if it was like, no dish is perfect, but if it was like almost there, like maybe just some small tweaks, and we leave it the same for next season. If it was a complete disaster or something had to change, then we change it. So I feel, when you get in your like 25, 30, 40 years on your chef career, all your dishes, they're very, very elegant and they're very, on point. But
because probably there are some dishes that will forever be linked to a certain chef, or will be a creation like any other creation in the arts. Talking about dishes and talking about repertoires, I think our culinary culture, the Romanian culinary culture, has quite an extended repertoire, and I've always been amazed by the sort of inferiority complex of Romanians in relation to their cuisine, to their way of cooking. You can hear people complaining that, look, this is a Turkish dish, this is a Greek dish, this is a Ukrainian dish, this is a Hungarian dish. While I believe that the Romanian cuisine makes a fantastic synthesis of all these influences, like a fusion cuisine, but in name, bringing all these influences together, combining them, and because it's Christmas Day today, on the Romanian family's table, there are so many dishes. It's such a great diversity there. The product, even though they look similar to those coming from other parts, are somehow tastier or more developed or more refined. So it has always been very difficult for me to understand this maybe inferiority complex is too much, but this complaining that, look, we don't have this original cuisine, while our cuisine with its richness and diversity is so original. Why do you think is that? Why do you think we don't appreciate more what we have, or more promote more what we have? Because we as cultural promoters truly believe that cuisine is an important part of our culture, and one of the most sellable, if we can use this term, one of the most striking feature of our culture that deserves to be better known. What do you think is that? I
think we just need to get some nice plates. Like when I look at the Romanian cuisine, is the same as the Austrian or the French or the Turkish. If you make polenta and you put in like one of those chowans, but as long as it's like an artifact and it's like looks really nice, it's the same as the Italian polenta, or probably even better, because you use like pork fat, or you use like a bunch of other stuff. I feel, the Romanians over the years, they need to just be a little bit more confident and like believe in the cuisine and the food. And I agree with you. I was thinking about this question like for like a few days now, and I feel in Romania you find probably the best fusion from all over Europe and even Asia, because between like Hungary and Romania there was a lot of nations that traveled through that path over the years.
That's
like
right.
the Romans, the Huns, the Mongolians, was a lot of different influences, and then some of those stayed in the cuisine. So I feel when you make polenta, like the polenta that my parents or my grandparents used to make, is better than the one I had a restaurant in Italy. And it's just being confident and using the product when it's ready. And on Christmas, yes, you have your suckling pig, or you have the different parts of the pig that you have on the table.
Right. The sausages and all these.
Yeah, it's very complex. When you think about it, it's charcuterie.
That's
like
right.
The French people make it.
Yeah.
You have the aspic, the jelly, which is something that they would serve at like the Versailles Palace in France or somewhere in England. So I just, the Romanian people and the culture and the food, it's definitely a combination of Europe just in general, but just using the Romanian products. And I think as long as we get more confident of using those products, I think the cuisine will shine, and people will see it and will be like, there's no difference than the grandmother in Italy making the raviolis or the pasta. So yes, I feel there's definitely a lot of potential, and people should just be, just buy your stuff local and the best Romanian ingredients you can, and then just I don't know, go back to like second generation and really spend some time with your family and see how they actually cooked everything properly. I think you don't want to forget those things. You want to keep them going, because I think it's very important.
Because some say that Italy is a country with 2 million Michelin chefs because there are so many grannies that are cooking fabulously.
That's
I think
true.
we can say the same for so many Romanian ladies who are do wonders in the kitchen, and the quality of cooking is phenomenal. But I think I agree with you that we have to do more about that. In the world, but also in our country, because when I look at Romania, I can't see any Michelin star restaurant. When I look at in Poland, there are a couple. In Hungary, there are a couple. And I would argue our cuisine and the products, the Romanian products, the generosity of the soil and the weather and would have allowed us to have a Michelin star restaurant. What do you think we lack yet a Michelin star restaurant in Romania?
I think we lack, unfortunately, it's discipline. I feel that people need to be a little bit more get up and go, and really make the effort of sourcing the products and stepping back and just looking at the bigger picture. What's Romania known for? Romania is a beautiful country, got a lot of resources. Do the research, go to the farm, get the best Romanian wine, put it on your wine list. Don't just, people are too comfortable and just, okay, I'm just going to get this Coteron or this Italian wine that I'm going to have in my restaurant in Bucharest or Cluj. Just go to the source and try to celebrate the Romanian products. And
because Michelin star is more than the artistry of one-off artistry of making a dish. Is a complex thing, right?
The Michelin recognizes first for the product they use, so you always have to cook seasonal, and then you have to elevate the product. So if you would have an apple, and it would be the best apple at this time in season, and you cook it really well, and you don't have to overcomplicate it,
but it has to be seasonal.
Yes,
and it has to be,
and you're consistent, and you do it 12 months out of the year, and you just celebrate, and then the Michelin recognizes that. You get awarded Michelin stars or Bib Gourmands or 2 Michelin stars, depends on, and Romania has definitely potential, and I feel that in the next, I want to say 2 years, there will definitely be some lucky winners or some restaurants that will shine.
Maybe you will be part of this success.
One day,
and now we're going to the plans of the future. Do you have any plans that involve Romania, or Are you contemplating doing something there? Yes, you have a fantastic career in New York. New York is one of the major culinary capitals in the world. But are you interested in doing something in Romania as well?
I think as time goes by and I get more mature and more comfortable, I would definitely like to go back for, just to give it a try and see. I'm not saying that it's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but after spending so many years in London and New York, and I would like to be close to my family and also try to expose Romanian cuisine and try to use my experience to, I don't know, just be an ambassador for Romanian cuisine. I would definitely like to do that. But
would you include in your restaurant, future restaurants or future operations, dishes, Romanian dishes or interpretations of Romanian dishes? Would you include them? Would they be successful, do you think?
Yeah. So at the moment I am actually, I'm working on a concept. It's called Anishka, which is basically my grandmother's name. And
are you coming from Transylvania?
Yeah, Transylvania, from Bistrița. Mm-hmm. And I am trying to, my grandmother, she used to be Austrian, Hungarian, and then from my dad's side, they were Ukrainian, Romanian. So I'm trying to create this concept of an Eastern European restaurant where all the dishes are cooked from memories. So trying to use my, French and European and New American training, and using my skill as a chef that I developed over the years, but try to make a menu or cook food from my memories and elevate those dishes. So I'm always working on something, but this is a very special project that I would like to do either in New York or in Romania. Depends on the situation or depends on the
It doesn't have to be one restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish you would have plenty of that. So you definitely believe that one can think of a Romanian menu that can be elevated at the Michelin star level.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I can see there's some trends in Romania, and some of the chefs in the big cities in Romania are doing that. But they have different influences. Some chefs worked in Scandinavia and they have Scandinavian Romanian influences, and some people, they just do traditional Romanian food with a more modern twist. But I really like to, one of my favorite chefs in London, it's Heston Blumenthal, and he goes back to studying the history of the dishes. And I would like to take a similar approach with the Romanian food, but just elevate it where people would go to a Romanian restaurant and would be like, wow,
something like a Central European table full.
And I just feel that there's definitely a potential, and there's definitely, I can use the experience that I gained over the years to do that. So, I think sooner rather than later we'll make it happen.
I hope it will make it happen, and we keep the finger crossed for this endeavor. Because we are in the festive season, I would like to ask you, do you cook at home? I mean, with all this cooking and living in these kitchens and supervising all these efforts, do you have time to cook at home? And if yes, what do you like to cook at home?
I like to cook. I do cook. I do some cooking at home more than I used to. When I started working in the kitchens, because the hours were so long, and
didn't have time.
You would have a day off, and you would just order takeout. But in the last probably 4 or 5 years, I really enjoy cooking at home. I enjoy the whole experience and journeys. On a Saturday, I wake up, I go to the farmer's market, I buy my products, and then it's mainly vegetable and fish dishes. I try to do meat also, but maybe only a few times a week. But it's all about the ingredients, and I just try to do simple stuff. I'm not gonna cook restaurant food at home because,
of course, there's no point.
But it's all about the flavor. And then Romanian food, I always make the polenta, which is my favorite. And then I also do the salata de vinete, the eggplant caviar. I have a little competition with my mom. Like I always FaceTime her or take a picture, and we do like different presentations. That was probably one of my favorite things to like spread on bread when I was a kid. So I keep making that, and I also have it in some of the restaurants. Like we serve it with some of the dishes. So, but yeah, some cooking is happening. Yeah.
Do you do a lot of experimentation at home, or you would like to do it professionally in a professional environment in the kitchens that you are?
It's professionally. Like an idea triggers.
Distinguish very clear what's going on in the restaurant kitchen and what's going on in the home's kitchen. Right?
Yes, like the home kitchen, I just keep it, I cook stuff for myself or my friends. And then in a professional kitchen, if I have an idea, or I always try to brainstorm and say, okay, looking at a picture or going to a museum and seeing something like I develop like an idea for a dish. And then I go back in the kitchen and, I get my team of 2 or 3 people that are like very good at developing. Mm-hmm. And I say, okay, what do you think about this? And it's an open conversation, and they say, this is not going to work. Or, yeah, this is really good or has potential. Yeah. And then I give them the idea, the homework, and then they just execute it for me. Mm-hmm. And obviously, once it's ready, but it takes like 4 or 5 times. So it's like, then people
just
get a
trial and error.
Yeah.
How important is the health factor in your creations, in making a dish? Do you think of that? Is it healthy? Would it cater for health-conscious people? Are these calculations going into the final decision with regard to a dish?
Yes. So in the last 2 years, probably a new trend has developed where everybody's either vegan or vegetarian, mm-hmm. or they like to be health-conscious. And obviously, as a restaurant and working in restaurants and being a chef, I embrace it. Like for me, I try to keep healthy. Like when I was younger, you go and like party or, don't eat as healthy. But like lately, in the last probably like 4 or 5 years, like, I might replace the butter with olive oil, and I might just eat some nice fish instead of having a big roast or something. So I think like health is very important. And anytime we develop a dish, we try to make it set ourselves a challenge. So can we make all the desserts with no sugar for this menu? And then everybody goes, wow, that's a very good approach. Because you can still have chocolate, you can still have nuts, there's a lot of things you can
to decrease the level of
and
sugar.
It's just, it's just about, it's very easy just to go and like have 2 spoons of sugar or buy a packet of jelly beans and eat them all, but that's not going to be good for you. So I think moving forward, it's definitely a good trend, and it's very important for people to be healthy. And we definitely incorporate just the way we cook the vegetables, or just like small tweaks, like we steam the fish instead of roasting it, or so yes, I think it's very important. And I'm sure you will see in the next few years, people will be questioning, or people will have on their menus, this is a sugar-free menu, or this has no fat, no butter, or so yeah.
It's probably not a good time to talk about healthy food during the festive season and thinking of Romanian cuisine for these occasions. But it's been truly a fascinating conversation. I feel that it can go on forever. I want to wish you luck with all your projects, and I know that some important projects are in development, and we can't wait to see that they are successful. Also, we can't wait to do other partnerships and collaborations with you and your companies. And to our viewers, I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.